I knew the evening was headed into trouble the second the HOA office door slammed behind me, like it was trying to flee the building. That sharp, hollow crack, half anger, half warning, was the exact sound Karen made whenever she discovered a lawn decoration that offended her delicate sense of order. And tonight, she was in peak seasonal bloom. My wife Elena sat beside me in her wheelchair, hands folded neatly in her lap. She always dressed up for these meetings, as if diplomacy worked better when paired with a floral blouse and unwavering kindness. Me? I just aimed to survive the next hour, without losing what remained of my sanity. The room buzzed with flickering fluorescent lights and the quiet rumble of neighbors pretending they weren't here for the drama they absolutely came for. But Karen, our HOA president and self-appointed guardian of neighborhood perfection, cleared her throat with the stage presence of someone preparing to destroy a village with one policy amendment. There is, she declared, the issue of the ramp. Our ramp. The one I built so Elena could actually enter our home after her accident last year. The same ramp we had approved, on paper, 3 separate times because Karen lost the first 2 copies somewhere in her personal black hole of paperwork. I felt Elena stiffen beside me. It extends exactly 6 inches beyond guidelines, Karen continued, tapping her stack of papers like she was clutching the 10 Commandments. I'm afraid adjustments will be necessary. I pressed a hand to my forehead. Karen, we've talked about this. The inspector approved it twice. It isn't a hazard to anyone except maybe people who stroll around with their eyes shut. A couple of neighbors snickered under their breath. Karen's gaze sharpened. Yes, well, she said, lips drawn thin, I believe we can all agree that certain individuals here become entitled. Elena spoke gently. It's just a ramp, Karen. Karen leaned in, her voice dropping to a poisonous whisper that somehow filled every corner of the room. Rules don't bend just because you do. A cold shock went through me. Karen had crossed lines before, but never like this. Never with that venom. Something in her eyes flickered tonight. Something unhinged. I looked at Elena, and she gave me that small, brave smile she always wore, even when the world was crueler than it had any right to be. I didn't know it then, but that smile would be the last peaceful moment we'd have. When we stepped outside, the night air felt heavier than usual, humid, metallic, like a storm was holding its breath. Elena squeezed my hand as I pushed her wheelchair across the dim, quiet parking lot. Don't let her get to you, she murmured. She's already gotten to me, I said, forcing out a laugh. I'm convinced she collects my sanity, like HOA fines. Elena chuckled, and for a second, normal life returned. But normal never survived long around Karen. Out of nowhere, headlights flared, bright, blinding, rushing toward us from the far end of the lot. I froze. The engine roared like an animal. Elena! Before I could finish, the car surged forward. I jerked the wheelchair aside. Tires screamed across pavement, and the bumper clipped the chair, spinning Elena out of my grasp. She gasped, sharp, terrified, followed by the sickening crunch of metal slamming into metal, then metal slamming into her. No! I ran, stumbling, reaching for her as everything blurred with panic. The car didn't stop. It pushed her chair several feet until it smashed into a curb, flipping her hard onto the asphalt. For a second, the world went silent except for my heartbeat hammering against my skull. I dropped to my knees beside her. Elena! Elena! Her eyes flickered, unfocused. She tried to say my name, but her voice dissolved into a choking cough. Blood glistened on her lip. The car finally screeched to a halt. The driver's door swung open. And then I saw her, Karen, standing there with a wild, electric stare like we were the ones who had caused this. You stepped right in front of me, she shouted, pointing at me with a shaking hand. I told the board that ramp was dangerous. Look what it's caused. Look. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything narrowed to Elena's weakening grip around my wrist. Neighbors poured out of the meeting hall, yelling, calling 911, sprinting toward us. Someone pulled me back as paramedics swarmed in. I fought them, God, I fought, but they needed space. Then one paramedic murmured, "We're losing her." My chest collapsed. Karen stood frozen, mumbling something about liability, as if any of this was about rules now. And then a dark pickup rolled into the lot. A familiar one. Elena's brother, the Navy SEAL. The paramedics worked with brutal efficiency, steady, focused, devastating. I stood a few feet away, numb, trembling, while neighbors whispered prayers or curses around us. The smell of scorching asphalt mixed with the crackle of the ambulance radio. That's when the pickup door opened. Elena's brother, Marcus, stepped out slowly, like the entire world had funneled into a single mission. He wore jeans, a dark T-shirt, and that expression I'd seen only once, after deployment where he came home silent for days. Marcus. My voice cracked, barely audible. Marcus didn't look at me at first. His eyes went straight to Elena. The instant he saw her, something in him hardened, like a switch being thrown. He moved toward her quietly, but with a purpose behind every step, as though each one came with its own mission directive. The crowd instinctively drifted aside, parting without a single word. One of the paramedics placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sir, we're doing everything we—" "I know." Marcus's voice was steady, but stretched so tight it felt like it was containing a hurricane. "Just tell me if she's breathing." The paramedic hesitated, then offered the faintest nod. "Barely." My knees nearly buckled with a mix of relief and terror. Karen hovered near her car like she thought it might confess if she didn't guard it. When she spotted Marcus, her face drained and stiffened, defensive, chin raised, arms folded like arrogance counted as body armor. "Let's be reasonable," Karen snapped, her voice sharp and brittle. "It was an accident. They darted in front of me." Marcus finally turned toward her, slowly. I'd seen him compose during videos he once showed me, grainy clips of combat zones with names he refused to explain. But the look he gave Karen now was colder than any of those. Not rage. Something far more precise. "What did you do?" he asked. Karen scoffed. "Don't you take that tone with me. Your sister's husband should have been watching where he was pushing her. And honestly, some people exaggerate their disabilities for attention." The temperature in the parking lot seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus took one step toward her. Not fast, not threatening, just deliberate. Karen backed up instantly. Blue and red reflections from arriving police cruisers washed over us, turned the asphalt into a battlefield glow. Officers stepped out, hands hovering near holsters, uncertain of what they were walking into. Marcus never broke eye contact with her. "This isn't over," he said quietly. The next 10 minutes blurred into a nightmare with no edges, just noise, confusion, and pain. Police taped off the area. Neighbors gathered in whispering clusters. Karen kept repeating her lines like a bad actor stuck in a loop. "It wasn't my fault. They darted out. She shouldn't have been out this late." As though repetition could turn lies into truth. Marcus stood beside me now, silent, watching the paramedics lift Elena into the ambulance. His hands clasped behind his back in that way soldiers hold themselves when they're holding back the urge to move. I could barely breathe. She didn't deserve this. "No," Marcus said quietly. "She didn't." His calm scared me more than anger ever could. 2 officers approached us, their faces carrying both caution and sympathy. "Sir," one said to me, "we need your statement. Several witnesses say the vehicle accelerated toward your wife. We're treating this as a possible. It was an accident." Karen shrieked. "Cut him off. I said it was an accident. These people are blowing this out of proportion. I'm the HOA president. For God's sake." Marcus turned toward her again with that same deliberate calm. The officers noticed immediately and stepped between them, without needing instructions. "Ma'am," one officer said firmly, "we need you to step aside now." Karen scoffed but retreated a few shaky steps. I gave my statement mechanically, fighting the urge to break apart mid-sentence. When I finished, the officer stepped away to radio in details, compare notes, and speak with witnesses. That's when Karen muttered, just loud enough for us to hear. Honestly, if she wasn't so fragile, she'd still be alive. Something in me snapped. I lunged, but Marcus's arm shot out, stopping me effortlessly. "Don't," he said. "She's not worth it." Karen smirked, mistaking restraint for weakness. You people always play the victim, she spat. Well, I'm done being bullied. I know my rights. Marcus stepped forward again, not fast, not aggressive, just utterly certain. You're right, he said. You do. Karen blinked, thrown off by the calmness. And you're about to learn all about them, he continued. When detectives pull your security footage, the footage from your car, the footage your HOA insurance requires, the footage you forgot about. Karen's face drained so hard it was almost cinematic. She had forgotten. We all saw it land. Hard. Her car recorded everything. Police radios crackled to life. An officer approached her with cuffs in hand. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Karen stumbled back, sputtering. No, this is all a misunderstanding. But it was too late. They read her rights under the same fluorescent lights she'd ruled under like a tyrant. As they led her toward the cruiser, Marcus rested a hand on my shoulder. Let's get to the hospital, he said softly. Elena needs us. And for the first time all night, I felt the smallest flicker of hope, fragile, trembling, but alive. If this story hit home, tap like, it tells the algorithm you're standing with ordinary people who refuse to be pushed around. Subscribe to my Vibe TV so you never miss a moment where justice finds its way back. And drop your thoughts in the comments. In my shoes, what would you have done?